Hi, my name is Zach Fisher, and welcome to another Tech Talk. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about DevOps. DevOps is a little bit of an elusive term because, at least when I was first introduced to it, I wasn't exactly sure what it was because people seem to be talking about DevOps as another transformation, and I wasn't sure if it was some sort of software or procedure or set of rules to follow. And what DevOps is it's mainly a culture that's built around um, a set of procedures that were developed by in the main and fine-tuned in the manufacturing industry, and then they were transferred into the IT industry. So this all started with a guy named, his last name was Demings, and he really revolutionized the way that Toyota built cars. Everybody probably knows that Toyotas are known for their reliability, and Demings was from the United States. He moved over to Japan, and um, and then he revolutionized the way that Toyota was manufacturing cars, making them the most reliable and the most efficient production of cars out of any company, and basically beat the snot out of the American car manufacturing companies that that previously held a global lead on car manufacturing. And he did this through um, a change in culture and a change in processes. So he would let anybody come and look at his plant, but because he knew that by the time they adopted his methodologies, they would change. And really, it was mainly about his culture that he had developed over in Toyota. So there's a few interesting books to read on on DevOps and on Deming. So and the first one is called, I would recommend starting, if you're interested in DevOps, I would recommend starting with the Phoenix Project. This is my recommended reading. This introduces in a very relatable story format the principles of DevOps, and it shows taking the IT administrator into the factory and showing him what they're doing in the factory and how and kind of making that mental leap from the physical manufacturing floor and all of their processes into the logical of IT and the processes that are involved in IT, and the similarities that can be drawn and the efficiencies that were gained in the manufacturing can also be gained in IT. Another interesting book here, and the Phoenix Project. So one of the big things about DevOps is finding your bottleneck, and just a little tidbit on a story that really stuck with me in the Phoenix Project was the dad was going hiking with his kids who are all Boy Scouts, and he noticed that they all had to stay in a line because they all had to stay together. And he noticed that there was one slowest Boy Scout who had a lot of things in his pack because he overpacked. And the dad noticed that he was slowing down everyone, no matter where he put him in the line. So what he noticed it was that that was his bottleneck, and he had to figure out how to get load off of his bottleneck. And there's a bottleneck in every IT scenario, at least one bottleneck. And being able to fully utilize that bottleneck and take as much workload off of that bottleneck as possible is one of the most important things in the DevOps methodology. The other project, or the other recommended reading that I'm gonna give you is the DevOps Handbook. This one is a fantastic read. It's basically the authors, Jim Kim and several other authors of the Phoenix Project, and they're basically just having a dialogue about DevOps and what it is, and some of the major facets of it, and kind of how they took what was happening in the manufacturing industry and made that into an IT methodology. And you may be wondering right now, I'm not going to go DevOps is a very deep subject and very nuanced subject, so I'm not going to go extremely deep into it. But DevOps is, as you can imagine, based on the term, it really means making sure that development and operations are working very, very closely together. And development isn't just throwing projects over the wall to operations. They're actually working together, because if that's the case, then both teams tend to make the lives of the other team worse. So if they're not working together, then the development team will set unrealistic expectations for the operations team. The operations team will not meet on those expectations. So DevOps is development and operations working very, very closely together. And it was developed once again from Demings. And if you want to get into the manufacturing piece of it, you don't have to be like a manufacturing engineer to get it. You can read a book. It's very similar to the Phoenix Project. It's what the Phoenix Project was based off of, and it's called The Goal. And this talks about the methodology that was put in place in the manufacturing industry. And this is what DevOps was based on. So an interesting story that came out of the Goal that I thought was very applicable to business is the plant manager was talking to the eccentric mentor in the Goal. Like the Phoenix Project and the Goal both have hardworking middle management people who are put under strenuous conditions, and they both have a eccentric mentor that comes into the play, and um, this in this scenario, the mid-level manager was talking about how automation was, and their automated manufacturing equipment was really helping him out. And going through all of these metrics that were saying that, this new robot was helping them, helping their manufacturing. And the eccentric mentor asked him a couple questions. He asked him one question: is your cost lower? And the mid-level manager said no. And then the eccentric mentor said, or he said, he said, have you laid anyone off? And the mid-level manager said no, meaning his costs were not lower. And then his second question was, are you selling any more product? And the mid-level manager said no. And so then the eccentric mentor said, so what's the benefit of this automation if you're not lowering your costs and you're not selling more money or selling more product? And so the mid-level manager really had to step back and think about what he was doing. So the goal is, and that's really, as you can imagine, that same principle is very relevant to IT. There's tons of automation that happens within the IT environment, and if you are not able to sell more products for your company or lower your costs in some sort of way, then what is your true benefit of putting these things together? So these are the 3 books that I would recommend reading if you're looking into DevOps and you're interested in it. I think that DevOps and developing this methodology and this culture, it will really revolutionize the way that businesses do IT, and it will make you a differentiator in the marketplace. So just a little bit of information on DevOps and the very scratching the very surface of what DevOps is. I hope you understand it a little bit better, and I hope you get to read these 3 books because it'll really help you in your journey of learning this this culture. So like, subscribe, and comment with any questions. Thanks.